Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
The idea is that people will flock to this sign for photos, for video.
What's in a sign? Some Vancouver councillors want to make this permanent, and it won't be cheap.
Kind of seems like Paris putting up a sign that says Paris in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Plus,
less delays as well, I've noticed.
TransLink says more people are getting on-board transit.
What we now have is a new investment plan which allows us to increase service throughout the region.
Where is the growth and what needs more service?
Definitely expand more in Vancouver.
Also,
let's stop. What are we doing? Why are we not protected?
trying to save their animals. Demonstrators gather at a BC ostrich farm where hundreds of birds have been ordered killed because of avian flu concerns.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. A giant sign that says Vancouver will be coming back to the city's waterfront. A temporary version was a big hit among locals and visitors 2 years ago, and a majority of city councillors have now voted to have it back permanently in Cole Harbour. But as Chad Pawson explains, it comes with quite the price tag.
A big red Vancouver sign with light bulbs was a big hit in Cole Harbour in 2023 for tourists and residents wanting iconic shots of themselves in the city. But it was only ever temporary, paid for by associations in the Port of Vancouver to liven up the neighborhood. But City Council liked it and now has approved plans for a new version to be permanent, some 14 meters wide and 2 meters high right here.
The idea is that people will flock to this sign for photos, for video. Tourists, sharing those photos and videos on social media around the world helps promote Vancouver, as well as it really being a point of civic pride.
The idea is to copy similar signs in cities like Ottawa and Toronto, a sign that can light up or be wrapped in art. Vancouver's plan calls for making space for the sign, also consulting with local First Nations about the project and its design. Then there's the costs. They could run as high as $1 million to make it safe and permanent, $300,000 in upfront costs for the city, plus $50,000 in operating costs. $200,000 come from Destination Vancouver and another $200,000 from the Vancouver Hotel Destination Association. Councillors are concerned over the city's costs and want staff to find ways to further offset it through more partnerships. Councillor Sean Orr did not endorse the project because of its price tag and how it could conflict with Vancouver's natural beauty.
Given sort of some of the considerations, some of the talk about the cost, also some of the talk about the safety issues, as well as where it's located, in front of the mountains, to me kind of seems like Paris putting up a sign that says Paris in front of the Eiffel Tower.
No matter, the idea passed at council 10 votes to 1. The next steps include figuring out how to pay for the big new fancy permanent sign. If everything goes to plan, by next spring, visitors here should be able to snap iconic photos of themselves with it. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Vancouver.
TransLink says more people rode transit last year, with ridership growth returning to pre-pandemic levels. The largest boost is south of the Fraser, but as Michelle Morton explains, that has come with cuts in other areas.
More people are jumping on board buses and sky trains, says TransLink. In its annual service performance review, TransLink says ridership growth is up 3% system-wide, driven mainly by rapid buses.
What we found is that last year there were 7.7 million more trips taken on transit.
The agency says it had to make some tough choices coming out of the pandemic and a budget crunch.
To respond to demand, like places south of the Fraser, to increase services there, we had to reallocate ridership from some places for a few years.
Ridership south of the Fraser is the highest in the region, up more than 11%. Commuters in Surrey say they're not surprised by the growth and hope for more service.
I believe more seats in the bus.
Transit this year has been a lot easier. There's more SkyTrain, more offerings, and as well the bus system, I feel like it's less delays as well, I've noticed.
There's just more people in those areas now, and there's they're building new city centers, so it makes sense that we're seeing more people using transit down here.
In comparison, bus boardings in Vancouver, UBC and the North Shore saw a drop last year. The first time bus ridership has declined in areas where service was cut over the past few years. Transit advocates now hope TransLink will restore service.
Overcrowding has popped up on some routes that have seen cuts. You know, the cuts happen on these routes with the assumption that, oh, well, ridership is down, so we don't need as much service. But you know, time passes. The city grows.
TransLink says it was facing an annual deficit of more than $600 million, but its 2025 investment plan has been approved. It will include more funding through property taxes, fare increases, and the province. TransLink says this means they can boost service on crowded routes and in underserved areas. Michelle Morton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Pink salmon are expected to return to the Fraser River in record numbers this year. The run is set to begin in August. As John Hernandez shows us, advocates say it could provide a much-needed boost to fisheries and local wildlife.
They're expected to make their run up the Fraser River in massive numbers.
The preseason forecast is for 27 million.
A record-breaking run of pink salmon currently in the North Pacific, expected to return to the Fraser River by August.
They'll be coming kind of down from the Gulf of Alaska, and when they make their return, they'll be coming down along the BC coast.
Federal researchers say the large numbers are likely because pink salmon mature faster and tend to reach the river sooner than other species, getting first crack at the food. Their runs have grown steadily over the past decade. The millions heading up the river this year expected to benefit other wildlife.
Large numbers of pinks returning means that the animals in the watersheds are going to be well fed. It means nutrients from the ocean are going to make it into the valley.
Nutrients that have been linked to improved forest ecosystems along the river. Recreational anglers, meanwhile, are hopeful the run will open up local fisheries.
Our opportunities over the last number of years, particularly, have been so limited on salmon stocks, particularly in the Fraser River. So we're really looking forward to a tremendous, particularly family opportunity fishery this year on the Fraser.
Still, researchers say opening up the fisheries can pose a risk to more vulnerable species like sockeye and chinook. Those runs will swim alongside pink salmon in much smaller numbers, but could still be caught accidentally.
We need to use selective gear. We need monitoring in place to ensure that fishers are complying with the regulations to get the non-target species back into the water as quickly as possible so they survive.
Hill warns that heat and drought conditions could also pose a risk to all species making their way up the Fraser. No easy swim for the tens of millions of salmon trying to reach their spawning grounds. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
To a different animal story now. Demonstrators began gathering this weekend at Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, east of Kelowna. They've gathered to protest a federal order to kill a flock of nearly 400 birds because of worries about avian flu. Radio-Canada's Camille Vernet was at the farm earlier.
So it's really quiet right now. You can see right behind me the ostriches everybody's been talking about. And right next to them, on the other side, here you see RVs, tents. People have set up camps. They came from Calgary, BC, Ontario, and they're here to show their support to the farmers. And they say they are here to stay. Some have been here actually for a month.
These are God's creatures. For somebody to kill 400 healthy ostriches is just bad behavior.
And earlier today, the RCMP showed up. They were here to talk to people, and emotion went quite high.
And you've got to decide now.
But people stayed peaceful. And I spoke to Katie Passitney. She's the owner's daughter. And what she really wants is to protect the ostriches and also to have them retested, because they are very attached to their animals, and they disagree with the Canadian Federal Food Inspection Agency.
We're very disappointed that we, again, are just being met with resistance and can't work together, because this isn't just about our farm, it's about the future of farming across Canada.
Let's stop. What are we doing?
They're saying that killing the birds is not the solution to the spread of the avian flu. Camille Vernet, CBC News, Edgewood.
A solution to Metro Vancouver's political controversies over the past year may involve some non-political oversight. An independent report by Deloitte into the agency has now been released. It contains 49 recommendations to improve the billion-dollar regional district's accountability. We asked Justin McElroy about the proposed non-political oversight.
Yeah, Dan, obviously the thing with Metro Vancouver that always comes up is you have 41 directors from 21 different municipalities, most of them in part-time capacity, overseeing these very complicated water and sewage and wastewater situations for the entire region. So this report by Deloitte makes a number of recommendations, but the biggest is in terms of the overall structure, in that the water and sewage committees that oversee about 80% of Metro Vancouver's budget would be mostly composed or half composed of appointed board members. They would be, as I said, on the sewage and water boards. It would be similar to ICBC or BC Hydro, where you're looking for people with experience in both governance and the technical aspects of those situations so that they can give better oversight, ask more technical questions. But the ultimate power would still be with the Electric Vancouver board. So they would be the ultimate oversight. They would be saying yes to whatever the sub-boards with more appointed members were recommending. It's the one that is the number one of the 48 or so recommendations by Deloitte there, and it's the one that they think will be the biggest in terms of ensuring that Metro Vancouver has that oversight going forward that allows them to be on top of these bigger projects better.
And a reminder, this is just a recommendation. How likely is it that it will be adopted?
Well, ultimately, this is up to the province. They control the structure of Metro Vancouver and all regional governments in British Columbia. And the Metro Vancouver board has their first meeting with this on Friday. Here's what Chair Mike Hurley had to say.
There's a long ways to go yet. And the changes that need to be made will be made. That's what I committed to when I became chair. And that's what I intend to continue to do.
You know, he's not sticking his neck out at this point, Dan, but says that there is work that needs to be done. We'll see exactly how quickly they pick up this report, and if they do, what the province does next.
All right, Justin McElroy, thanks very much. A team of UBC researchers say they have developed a technology to help high-rise buildings withstand major earthquakes, something that could play a crucial role on BC's coast as we prepare for the big one. Renee Lucas explains.
A building design out of UBC's structural engineering department aims to keep residents safer during an earthquake. The lead researcher says unlike the Cold War era design on most current high-rises, with the elevators in the center of the building, their system is based around a concrete core with the building designed to move around it, using shock absorption devices like in your car to dissipate the energy of the quake.
And we also remove the foundation, allow the base of the foundation to move to dissipate more energy without causing a lot of demand to the foundation, so make it actually cheaper for the foundation design.
Plus, Young says it allows for more usable space. The team tested their model in Shanghai on the world's largest shake table with the force of a magnitude 9 quake. That's what's estimated to hit here in BC.
We were very excited to see it really works. So we end up shaking for another earthquake, the Mexico earthquake, the Chile earthquake, all the earthquake in the past. We went through 120 earthquakes, and the building are still standing, and no building in real life can actually do that. So we're very happy to see.
One city planner says increasing safety in concrete and steel buildings is great, but he hopes the technology can also be applicable to greener construction.
We want to be transitioning to more sustainable materials like mass timber for reasons, all sorts of reasons, not the least of which is the consequences of the climate emergency.
According to a report released by the City of Vancouver last November, modeling shows a 7.2 magnitude quake would cause major damage to existing private-owned buildings, mostly rentals. Yong's technology is something the City of Vancouver says it might be interested in.
We anticipate more density and development in the future, and so if we can benefit from that technology, the research that's happening at UBC, I think it's a good thing for the city.
So can this technology be used to strengthen existing buildings?
The answer is yes, but it's not as trivial because you needed to start strengthening the existing building, then adding this technology into it, but it's possible.
Young says the technology for new build high-rises is ready to be implemented and compatible under local building codes. His team hoping to bring some stability to earthquake-prone cities like Vancouver. Renee Lucas, CBC News, Vancouver.
They are one of BC's most popular and iconic animals. After the break, though, why the province's count of black bears may be off and why that has some advocates worried. Stick around. $300 affordable rental units are coming to Burnaby for families, seniors, and people living with disabilities.
Once they have secure housing, it's access to the core services they need that often end up being the next most important piece of their financial future.
The units will span two non-market housing developments, the Stellar, planned for the Edmonds Town Centre area, and the Connection at 6th Street and 12th Avenue. Both will feature in-home daycare. Construction is set to be finished in 2027. The Union for 1,200 striking Life Labs workers says it has reached a deal with its employer. The parties have agreed to a 3-year contract. This includes worker wage increases of up to 20% by 2027. The deal comes with binding recommendations courtesy of a mediator. The union's president says, well, he's pleased the strike is over. Some lingering concerns remain about the American-owned company.
After the premier made an announcement during the strike that all these U.S. contracts need to be reviewed or should be reviewed. The Ministry of Health came out and basically sided with the company during the dispute, saying that they wouldn't review the contract.
In April, the Premier directed BC ministries to move existing contracts away from U.S. suppliers in response to Donald Trump's tariffs. Black bears are one of BC's most recognizable large mammals, often for the wrong reasons, including human-animal conflicts. With thousands killed each year, some advocates are calling on the government to better count the bears. More now from the CBC's Chad Pawson.
Here in Deep Cove in North Vancouver, where black bear sightings are common, the animals moving through this green corridor coexisting with humans. Doesn't always go well, however. Garbage left out can result in nuisance bears, and then dead bears. Provincial statistics show hundreds destroyed each year, more than 8,000 total over a 14-year span. Black bears in BC are also killed through hunting, 5,000 a year on average. Other pressure on the animals comes from having their dens in trees destroyed by logging old-growth forests. Despite all of this, the province says the species is not currently rare, threatened, or endangered in British Columbia, with between 120 and 160,000 black bears spread out across all corners of the province. The reassurance and the numbers are a source of debate, though, between advocates, provincial scientists, and First Nations.
The estimate of 120 to 160,000 gets repeated over and over and over again in the press. And yet, if you ask the government where that number comes from, they cannot produce any kind of data to back that up.
Frankly, I'm now of the mind that the pursuit of a single population estimate for a single point in time in BC is not something that we should pursue. Instead, I think we should focus on setting objectives for the animal.
BC's estimate of its black bear population is now 20 years old. So, is a new, more modern survey needed to determine if populations have dramatically changed? And if so, what new measures are needed to ensure the health of BC's black bears? First Nations want this taken seriously, considering the cultural and ecological significance of the animal.
So the bear is part of our origin stories for some families, and why it's so important to talk about the bear and to talk about the old growth, because without the bears, they wouldn't get the old salmon carcasses to the old mother tree roots that are 1,000-year-old trees.
Advocates say this conversation can only happen with accurate data.
I want some more pressure on the government to address this big knowledge gap that we just don't know how many we have. We don't know if we're hunting too many, if we're killing too many through conflict.
The argument against a total population survey is that it would need to be massive, meaning costly. Resources could be better deployed for helping orphaned cubs, reducing human-bear conflicts in backyards, but also farm fields, protecting bear dens, and managing the black bear hunt.
Can we minimize the number killed just because it's a good thing to do and not have these animals killed in conflict?
While advocates continue to push for better data around black bears, all sides of this debate agree that people in BC should be aware of the animals and do their part to try and help avoid destroying them over issues within our control. Chad Pawson, CBC News, North Vancouver.
Well, there was a bit of everything in a Soyuz on this day. Lows near freezing overnight, showers, and then plenty of sun. Darius has your forecast next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox. CBC celebrates Asian Heritage Month through the language of movement, where every step tells a story. Throughout the month of May, we're shining a spotlight on Asian dance groups, showcasing the dynamic blend of classical, folk, and contemporary dance forms. These talented dance groups share their cultural heritage through stories and traditions, knowledge and technique. Read and watch their stories at cbc.ca/BC.
Our science and climate specialist Darius Madavi is here with the BC-wide forecast, and there's a bit of a change on the fire danger map.
That's right, a bit of improvement, especially compared to late last week when we had a pretty high, moderate to high fire danger in the south. Now low to very low fire danger in southern BC and most of the north, but the northeast remains stubbornly dry, and that means high fire danger up there. Without many showers on the way and a risk of thunderstorms tomorrow in that area, definitely something to watch for. If we take a look at our forecast here in southern BC, you'll notice that most of the model, well, this is just one model, but I'll tell you, most of the models are now in agreement about what's happening towards the end of this week. No longer looks like Friday, which was a toss-up between being, dry and cloudy to showers to rain. Now it looks like we'll see a little bit of sunshine, probably mostly dry. Maybe an odd shower will pop up, but for the most part dry. Tomorrow, early morning in Vancouver, maybe seeing a shower, but for the most part, all that precipitation is really just concentrated up on the North Island, Central Coast, North Coast, so most of it is missing us. If we zoom out to the rest of the province, you can see, again, most of that precipitation arriving on Friday, hitting just the North Island and then mostly the North Coast and the Central Coast. Some of it may break up into the northern interior, maybe a bit into the central interior as well, but for the most part, we are staying pretty dry in the interior parts of the province, especially down in the southern half, even central BC for the most part, pretty dry. So that is something to watch for as well, especially as temperatures continue to climb over the next few days. Here in the south, we see a little bit of here on the coast, we see a little bit of fluctuation over the next few days, but in the interior, we're really just climbing as we head into the weekend. So definitely something to watch for in terms of that fire danger, especially if we start to see some more of those thunderstorms. Fire danger likely to climb as we head into the weekend and early next week. But for the most part, looking at plenty of sunshine, maybe a bit of cloud in the morning, mostly sunny in the interior in the morning, and then some more cloud builds in. And here's a 5-day forecast, Dan. We've got those temperatures really climbing, especially for those inland areas, easily hitting the mid-20s by the weekend.
Okay. Darius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us on CBC Vancouver News. You can watch this newscast on our free CBC Gem app, as well as on YouTube and our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Good night.